Hello everyone. In this video, I'll be going over the very moment where we've got the idea, we've managed to lay it all down on a script, or at the very least a bullet point form, and we've outlined what the video will be and where it'll be. We've gathered all the needed props and the needed equipment, and we're ready to produce the video. And I'm here to talk about the lengthy process that goes into that. Given the fact that I don't drive, and my friends at the time didn't either, I'd usually rely on public transportation to head for the meet-up spot where we'd, meet up. And from there, we'd usually take a bus or get a taxi that's hired for us, or even have one of our mates drive us to the location. And yeah. The production just kind of starts there.
Judy, and mostly I, would organise these outings, hoping that those essential to the project would be available. We'd then meet, go to their house, get filming done, have something to eat, play games, and chat and discuss future projects.
Just to go off on a tangent, originally in The Wrath of Mr. Stop, there was supposed to be a bloke that originally had the role that Claudia took. Unfortunately, he had prior commitments, and he just couldn't show up. But frankly, that was for the best. He was never really part of Skits to begin with. And the reasons for that is because not only did he have other stuff going on, and I do try and respect that, but also because frankly he was an insufferable prat, and constantly making promises he wouldn't keep. Having other people pay for his shit. Yeah, frankly, I'm happy to see the back of that cunt.
Sometimes we'd often write the scripts with the locations in mind, not just the houses but the surrounding areas that had a lot of potential and play space for us. Especially that park we film a lot of our skits at, and just to give other examples, the little flat that was in the backyard of one of Raph's previous houses where T was filmed. Perfect in my eyes, because the house itself was way too big for us and had people there at the time, but the flat was like 2 rooms, the main room and the bathroom, and that really added to the claustrophobic feeling to this tongue-in-cheek horror special where there was only one way out and very little places to hide.
Bye-bye.
Probably our biggest gamble in skit making was Stranded, which was filmed on an island-like location we went to during a family house boat trip, which I was allowed to invite Judy and Claudia. Claudia mainly operated the camera, and we had to do the whole thing rather quick because we were only docked there for a day, and of course I operated the camera for Claudia's screen time. I was still happy with the result, and I could go on about the process, but I think I'll save that for a later part of this doco.
Now, when it comes to filmmaking, you need the right equipment, and of course the main piece of equipment you'll need is a good working camera. But I'm here to talk about the ones before that, leading up to the current one I'm using.
I remember receiving my first camera in 2009, more specifically a Canon Legria, before I stopped in 2012 due to the charger breaking. My dad got me a new one, and I resumed in 2013 or 2014, I'm not sure, but then history repeated itself. The charger cacked it, so in 2015, I got a new camera for Christmas. A Panasonic HCV160 Full HD camera. God, that's a mouthful, which I happen to be using to this day still, until I decide to upgrade it or it decides to kill itself.
Now, while the camera is an essential part of filming, because it does the filming, you also need a good tripod too. I still have my first one somewhere. I'll show it on screen when I can. It's falling apart, but I was able to keep it usable by the use of a paper clip in the right spot. And I still use my new one, and the old one still sees its uses. I usually use it for the phone with the use of an attachment. And yes, I do occasionally record with my mobile phone, either because the camera is low on battery, or because I just like the quality even more, or it's just because I want to do the whole double camera thing, like what you saw in the end times.
I remember very fondly that we used my camera, Claudia's camera, and my mobile phone to record a portion of the end times. I thought of using my Nintendo 3DS as well, but we didn't because the camera was kind of low quality, I didn't feel confident in the 1 or 2 gigabyte SD card storing the footage, and we had plenty of working cameras to work with. Another favourite example of us utilising the multi-camera idea was the Rich Uncle Funklesnatch video, where in it, one camera looked over the couch our 2 characters were sitting, and the other camera was focused on the character Judy was currently playing, with me holding the camera as she portrayed the rich fart. Okay, so here's what I did. This isn't the original raw file, sadly I lost that, but this is definitely the original footage. So here we have Judy playing herself, and Judy playing Rich Uncle Funklesnatch. So essentially, just before I show you how I did the split screen effect, a little bit of trivia. I originally wanted Claudia's camera to overlook the couch that the characters would be sitting on, while my camera was pointed the opposite end of Judy for both of the characters she was playing at the time. And my intention was, A, to keep the camera steady, and B, for the split screen effect to completely obscure the other camera. I really wanted to do that, but we didn't end up doing it for some reason. It's just kind of a shame, because I thought that would have been so cool, especially to show here. But here's how I essentially did the split screen effect. What I did, oh, and there's also a metal rod here, that's probably Claudia's tripod. And I'm doing this on Movie Studio Platinum 13 because that's what I was using at the time. So what I did was I right-clicked the piece of footage that featured Judy as herself and went to Video Event Effects. And then I just clicked the cookie cutter tool. And this pretty much set the groundwork. I picked oval side because I wanted to hide that metal rod that was probably Claudia's tripod. And just centered it on Judy. And then I just scaled it down and placed it like, yeah, like that. Now, you may have noticed that the footage is kind of messed up here, and I think the reason for that is because between the piece of footage that had Judy as herself and as Rich Uncle Funklesnatch, I think the camera might have been bumped without me knowing. But thankfully, I was able to salvage this, and I'm going to show you how right now. I went to pan and crop, and yeah, I just tried to move the window around until everything started to fit. It did take a while, but trust me, the result was worth it. Yep, we'll call that good. And you also may have noticed there's a bit of a lighting difference around the bit of footage. But this could be easily fixed by going back to the cookie cutter settings and feathering the footage. It's very subtle, but hopefully the lighting difference isn't that noticeable. So yeah, that's how I did it, and I'm kind of happy with it. And I'm just really glad that I was able to salvage it, because if I had to refilm it, I would have gone crazy.
And of course, what self-respecting filmmaker doesn't have a green screen? I didn't until 2014, which is like 5 or 4 years since I started my career in filmmaking, if you can even call it that. I remembered early in the days, and I don't have any footage of this, it's long gone, I actually used a bed sheet or a tablecloth as a makeshift green screen, and that had it had results. I'll just say that it had results.
One of my favourite things to do during our filming sessions was to record multiple skits back to back, as it really saved me a lot of time and allowed me to work on multiple things at the same time. It's a workflow that, as taxing as it was, I'd fallen in love with, because It allowed me to get ahead in my work, and it allowed me time to work on animations or finish college work I had at the time.
I remember doing this as far back as 2012, when I still had the GJ95 Studios name, but I utilised it more at the start of 2017. I liked the workflow so much, I worked it into my modus operandi. And I would like to bring up a couple of examples of this right now, but you should be able to easily see it because there are a few times me and my friends are wearing the exact same clothes in between videos.
In February of 2017, I recorded footage for Boredom 2, the Aspie Dance, and portions of Chloroxade. And as mentioned in the previous part, between the 9th and 16th of July 2017, portions of Christmas Spirit, Boop, The Water is Fine, and Meme Slayer were recorded, the very latter of which ended up being scrapped because I hated it. Telekinesis Fail, T, and a large majority of Sniffing Santa were recorded on the 27th of May 2018. This is even referenced in T, where I mistakenly marked it 25th of May instead of 27th. That was a mistake on my part, but I was 2 days off, so it's no biggie. During the 27th of August of 2018, the entirety of the Rich Uncle Funklesnatch video and portions of Sniffing Santa were recorded. Portions of Parkinson's Comes to Australia, and I Have No Life and I Must Perish, and the entirety of Fist Gun were recorded May 2019. And finally, Boredom 3, as well as portions of the second Chloroxade video, were recorded on September of 2019. And they were planned for release on 2020, which was a good idea considering the chaos that 2020 became. This kind of workflow is a godsend for videos you have a particular release date for, and require early filming so that you and your mates are available for it, and you'll be able to get all the editing done, which was mainly the case for Christmas and Halloween specials, namely T, Christmas Spirit, and Sniffing Santa. And later on, I do the same for the grand finale, which we'll be looking at sooner or later.
And now we have all the recording done and we're ready to go into the editing phase, which is not only a good way of making the magic happen, but also confirms to me that the product that we've worked so hard in developing and producing is finally going to see completion. Whether or not it'll see success is a completely different story entirely.
I always knew that I didn't have any of the resources that many big YouTubers had, such as stellar editing software. Like most small and starting creators, I started with Windows Movie Maker, which was very restrictive when it comes to editing, and even the later versions of it had a little bit more but nothing to write home about. Later on, I'd use a trial and later pirated version of VideoPad Editor. I remembered having 2 versions of that, and would often spend time playing with whatever bells and whistles it had. I was introduced to that around 2010 or so. I was still making the most derivative stuff, mainly relating to YouTube poops, in addition to the skit comedies. VideoPad gave me some very hit-and-miss results, not just because my editing skills were still below a novice level, but also because, with it being a trial version, at the time, I couldn't really render videos in a 16:9 aspect ratio, which can be seen with videos like the eHarmony video and Boredom. Come 2013, I would purchase a piece of software called Pinnacle Studio HD 15. This had quite more than Windows Movie Maker, but not as much as the later version of VideoPad I had once. But it still worked. Then, in 2016, I came across a piece of software, through Claudia, that really fit my niche perfectly. Vegas Movie Studio Platinum, formerly known as Sony Vegas, a software I had coveted for longer than I can remember since hearing about it. It had everything I needed, from split screening and green screening and credits and such.
I just made the whole thing sound more mundane than it actually is. I'm so sorry.
But that became my signature editing software, and there was even a point, starting from the 3 videos shot back to back in 2018, I used After Effects, which was quite useful but difficult to use. This was used for Telekinesis Fail, T, and Sniffing Santa, and was even used in Brickwrite, Gift Horse, and Parkinson's Comes to Australia, and Boredom 3. Up until my Adobe license expired, and Adobe charged me $90 a month just to use 3 pieces of software at least. and I wasn't going to take it. Then, in late 2020, I bought Vegas Pro 14, which had a lot more stuff for my editing needs and made a nice replacement for After Effects. It even has rotoscoping, which does take a lot of time to do, but it's better than spending an arm and leg on Adobe's asinine prices. And to this day, I've used Vegas Pro for my skits, my gaming videos, my animatics, post-production on my animations, and even for making this very video you're watching, which is the third part of a 5-part documentary that's already coming to an end.
Now, with all these factors in place, I was at a point where, as much as I enjoyed making skits, I felt like I was ready to graduate from amateur skits making to building an animation portfolio and hopefully finding a job in the art form. And this would be a decision I doubled down on following a couple of unforeseen circumstances. Join me next time as I go into the point of Skit Stack where I became a solo act.